The question is, Professor, are these charges something, I believe the FACE Act violation, again, indicted by a grand jury, are they something that carry real jeopardy here for Don Lemon?
Well, first of all, the FACE Act itself does pose jeopardy for all those arrested. The Attorney General of Minnesota, Ellison, said that this only applies to abortion clinics. That was completely false. It does apply to places of worship like this. And in fact, when they have applied it to abortion clinics, including Ellison, they have adopted the broadest possible interpretation of those criminal provisions. Now, with regard to Don Lemon, I think that he has a claim here that he was acting as a journalist. And I think a lot of judges are going to find that persuasive because they tend to avoid really hitting that tripwire when it comes to journalism. Now, the problem, of course, is that Don Lemon really stretches that meaning of a journalist. He's one of these journalists that believe in advocacy journalism, which blurs, again, the line of what is a journalist and what is an advocate. So that's going to end up having to be litigated. Some of us have written for years, I just wrote a book on this not long ago, really contesting advocacy journalism as killing journalism in the United States. He is really the face of that movement.
Yeah, and you bring up sort of the career path of Don Lemon, but there's also the actions that day and whether or not those were the actions of someone simply chronicling the event or someone serving as a hype man for the event, and whether or not carrying a camera or a phone, for that matter, into a protest or riot or disruption absolves you of the actions of that moment.
Yeah, that actually has been an issue that's come up repeatedly now, particularly Antifa, but a lot of far-left groups have been defining some of their members as journalists or observers, even though they're very much participants. For example, Good, who was the first of those two shootings, insisted that she was a legal observer. I've represented legal observers in protest cases, and she was not acting as a legal observer. She was a participant. And you have the same things happening with some people who don vests saying press when they really are part of these groups. So courts have had to work through this by looking at their conduct, not how they define themselves, but what did they do? Now, that doesn't mean that Don Lemon cannot make the case as a journalist. Courts are going to take that very seriously, but we're going to have to look very closely at the basis for his arrest, why there was a finding of probable cause, and what was the conduct that was being cited in that proceeding.
All right, Professor Jonathan Turley, thanks for breaking that down for us today.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.